r/nosleep. Posted by you/princesspyor. Don't listen to the radio after midnight. This happened yesterday, at time of writing, so I'm just getting this all written down before something happens. If you don't hear from me, don't come looking. You'll likely be next. Some context, now. I run a volunteer radio show at a campus radio station, the oldest in Canada. You know the one, if you're a local or Googling, but I don't really want to write down its name. We have over 100 volunteer-run shows running at any given time, so finding one that I hadn't listened to on air before isn't really all that unexpected of an event. Including the syndicated shows, I think we run over 130 shows a week? Anyways, point is, I've got a radio in my bedroom, and I like listening to the station before I sleep. I've recently discovered what a mistake that is. At roughly 1 a.m. yesterday morning, unable to sleep, I heard a show I'd never heard before. I don't know what it was called, because there was no announcer, and the broadcast schedule listed it as rebroadcast, which is usually reserved for rebroadcasting recordings of the day's shows. At first I thought it was radio, which I really have no idea how to describe, but that only plays on Saturday evenings. To get to the point, this show was fucking harrowing to listen to. I could hear the familiar sounds of a live show on the station. I've been doing a show long enough to recognize the minimal background noise, the manipulation of the mouse to operate Megaseg, our Segway program, and the click of various bits of equipment being manipulated to optimize volume and leveling for broadcast. That's where the familiarity ended, though, because a voice came over the air that I didn't recognize as one of the normal station hosts. It was completely neutral, no notes of femininity or masculinity, not that that means anything anyways, but it was unnerving. Welcome, my dear listeners, to my show. If you're listening, you already know what we do here, and if you're new, congratulations on stumbling upon the newest radio obsession that's sweeping the nation. This show doesn't have a name, but it certainly does have a purpose, and hopefully, we'll be able to change the way you see the world. They paused and chuckled at this, and I heard some muffled whimpering in the background. Now, before we get started, I'd like to introduce our guest. There was a sound of tape being ripped off of something, followed by some incoherent screaming, which was extremely loud in the slightest moments before the levels of that mic were adjusted. Judging by the background noise off that mic, they were probably in the booth, rather than the control room. Well, now that's not very nice to our listeners, dear guest. Since she's not going to introduce herself, her name is Meredith. She used to be a devout listener, like most if not all of you, and now we've invited her in to join the show. I should have turned off the radio right then. I heard the sound of duct tape being pulled off the roll, followed by it staring, and now the muffling of Meredith's panicked crying and screaming. Now I did try to turn off the radio, but my remote wasn't working. Logically, I got out of bed, and pressed the off switch on my unit, and it did nothing. I even unplugged the fucking radio, knowing that its battery compartment was completely empty, and it continued to play. Oh, dear. It appears that one of our new listeners just tried to tune out of the broadcast. We can't have that. Now, dear Pyre, sit quietly and listen. I was stunned into silence and did as instructed, but the entire time, my mind was screaming as my body disobeyed me. Now, let's begin. I don't want to regale you all with the details, but what I heard will haunt me for the rest of my life. I heard this unnamed host narrating as she began to slowly torture Meredith, her screams muffled by the tape and the lowered volume of the mic, but it wasn't enough for the other mic in the booth to pick up the sickening sounds as the host sawed through bone, slowly but surely. From what the host said, they started at Meredith's toes, clipping them off with some sort of shears, then inch-thick segments of her leg from the ankle up. I sat, transfixed, listening to this torture and completely unable to move, my own will suppressed by something far more sinister. The show lasted for hours, and it wasn't until the last few minutes of the show that the host started speaking directly to the audience again, rather than narrating their atrocities on this poor woman. Thank you, my dear loyal listeners, for listening. Meredith says that she thanks you all for listening to her end, and that she hopes one of you will enjoy the privilege of being next. I and my team have already identified our next guest, and will be welcoming her on next week. Hopefully she'll be more courteous to our audience, and given her radio experience, I think she will be. So once more, thank you all for listening, and we'll be back this time next week. The radio clicked off after that, having been unplugged, and I was finally able to move again. Still horrified by what I'd listened to, I checked the time, and only an hour had passed. I know for a fact I was listening for at least 3 hours, like something compressed time or something, I don't know. What I do know is this. I'm writing this from the station lounge right now, and there's no blood in the booth. There was a note for me on the console in the control room, though, and I've been scared to read it, so I'm putting it off by writing my account. I contacted the CRTC in the morning, but they told me that nothing of the sort that I described was broadcast from the station. I checked the station archives, same thing. I'm writing this in case something happens to me, but whatever you do, don't listen to the station after midnight. I just finished reading the note. I'm going to transcribe it in full detail, because I want this to be recorded, just in case. Dear Pyre, thank you for listening to our show. I just wanted to let you know that you're not the only station member who listens, and I expect that I'll see you for an interview sometime in the future. You're not our lucky guest next week, but who knows what the future holds. Tilda. Oh, and by the way, don't contact the CRTC about me again. I know where you and your loved ones live, after all. I don't know if I'm going to be next, but I'm hoping that I won't be. If something happens, this will be here, unless they somehow gain access and delete it, but here's what I do know. There's no point in trying to report this, because clearly whoever's running it has some level of power that would just get me killed regardless of what I do, so the best I can do is warn you not to listen. Please, if you want to save yourself from a gruesome death, don't listen to this station after midnight. The next story of this video. I wasn't ready. It was a dark day in January when I first heard the alert go off. Now, as a result of my cell carrier, my phone wasn't compatible with Ontario's new Alert Ready system, and when they'd been running tests, I never received the alerts. That's why I was so confused with how I was getting one now. The fact of the matter is, that was the least unnerving part of my day. Normally, with the alert system, it would be providing me information about an Amber Alert, or a natural disaster. Instead, this message was addressed directly to me, which was, in fact, the least disturbing part about this message. I'll be keeping my name private, of course, but here's what it said. Redacted, you have been targeted. Please remain indoors. Lock all points of ingress or egress. Do not look out any windows. Witnessing it will only draw its ire. If you wish to survive, follow these instructions. Further instructions will follow as necessary. I'd imagine that would freak anyone out. I just thank my lucky stars that I'd just gotten home from shopping when the alert went off. I naturally did as it said, considering the simple factor that I was so far out of my element that I didn't want to tempt fate. It was about 9 AM the next day when the alert went off again. Redacted, it is closing in. Do not, under any circumstances, open any doors or windows. Do not exit your home. Whatever you do, do not answer the door. At this point, freaked out beyond belief, a thought occurred to me. I made a call to the moderators of the Alert Ready system, and I'm summarizing majorly here, but they essentially told me that there had been no alerts in my area for the past 4 months. Armed with that knowledge, as any sensible person would, I looked out the window. I wish I hadn't. What I saw will haunt me until the end of my days. It was dark at the time, there was a massive snowstorm about to hit my area. It stood under a street lamp, and the best way I can describe it is as a horrific amalgamation of limbs and parts. I could see at least 5 arms, 6 legs, 4 heads, but no eyes. None of them were the same color, nor did it look like they had been unnaturally attached. I had been looking at it for minutes, transfixed in horror, when I realized that it was coming towards my home. I'm fortunate it was an older building, with physical wooden shutters on the exterior of the windows. I had devised a way to close them from inside during the previous summer, because it was swelteringly hot and I wanted to keep as much sunlight and heat out as I could. The alert tone sounded a third time as soon as the banging on my front door started. Redacted, you should not have looked at it. Suitably freaked out, I very quickly started moving all the food in the house into the basement. I keep a fridge and freezer down there primarily for overflow, but I was very glad of them that day. I piled all the food in the house downstairs, and locked the basement door. I didn't go upstairs again for a week. The reason I went upstairs at all was out of curiosity, and a pleasant hope that the thing had fucked off. I was only upstairs for a minute when I heard the singing. I don't know what language it was, and frankly, I'm okay with not knowing. I don't want to know what it was singing while it sat in the snowdrift in front of my front door, pounding on it. What I did hear, though, was that it was begging to be let in from the cold. The next day, I got another alert. Redacted, count yourself lucky. Few have seen it and survived. It should be safe to return to your life as normal, but know that you are marked, and know that we are watching. Please follow our instructions next time, if there is a next time. I went back upstairs the next day, hoping to all the gods that it had left. There was no pounding at my door, So I peeked out the window, and saw a trail in the snow leading away from my home, then turning sharply on my lawn, leading due north. I opened the front door to see what its tracks looked like, and that's when I saw what it had done to my door. Written in blood, was the number 8, in Roman numerals. These events happened 8 months ago, almost to the day. Today, the alert went off again. I am back in my basement, but this time, I'm even more terrified. The alert went as follows. Redacted, it comes for you again. I'm sorry. I think I just heard it break down my front door. I'm going to go check it out, and hope to the gods that I'm hearing things.